Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Cover 2 Podcast. I'm Jared Smith.
And I'm Nick Neiman.
We were off last week, but we are back after a short break.
Yes.
And it's a little bit of a somber mood today.
Yeah, I dressed in black shirt.
It's all black. Yeah, today there is the Dodgers funeral. Technically it was last night, but we're extending it into today. As the Dodgers, for those of you who don't know, got eliminated from postseason contention last night at home against the Washington Nationals, 7-3. Our buddy here, Nick, is struggling. If you follow him on Twitter, you know how pissed off he is. So I am simply going to give the floor to Nick and give him a few minutes to rant. We're going to keep this PG.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
But Nick, tell me what happened last night. How did the Dodgers lose at home? They were up 3-0. Walker Buehler was dealing. And all of a sudden, Clayton Kershaw, Mr. Dodger himself, some say that he is arguably the best pitcher in Dodgers history. He gives up back-to-back home runs, and from there, the team tanked.
That was not good. Let me give credit real quick to Walker Buehler. He's a legitimate ace. He's going to be the Dodgers' future top player, their future number one guy, and he pitched like that last night. Little to no mistakes last night, and can't blame a guy that goes 6 tough innings, 117 pitches, multiple strikeouts, and really made the Nationals look stupid all night. That is essentially, and Max Muncy played great as well, and Kike Hernandez with a big home run. Those guys played well all postseason.
Yeah. No, the game was great up until like the 7th.
No, and then so I'm going to dive into it now, and it's I don't want to go and obviously there's a whole series here, and they lost 2 other games beside this, but this was the game where they made the most mistakes managerially. Their pitchers were the most unclutch in this specific game, so this is the reason they lost this series. You can go back, all the other games were really close, and there was a chance for each team to win every other game. This essentially, once they scored, the Nationals themselves scored 4 runs in the bottom of the 9th from a grand slam from Howie F.
There we go.
So,
sorry about that.
No, yeah. So I was saying,
continue.
I was saying that. This whole series was very good, and even the last game was good. But this is where the Dodgers made the most mistakes, and that's why I'm going to talk specifically about this game and specifically about the 7th inning to the 9th inning, or to the 10th inning, excuse me. They go in the extra innings, and what happened here, and so.
Feel free to take a deep breath.
It's okay. It's understandable why. It's understandable why you would bring Kershaw in the 7th inning. When you had a lefty batter up, Adam Eaton hadn't really played it well, and Kershaw dominated and put 3 or 4, I can't remember exactly how many pitches, of his best pitches of the entire playoffs to Adam Eaton. Okay. Then you go into the next inning, and unfortunately, I was in the kitchen, and I was watching other stuff at the time when Anthony Rendon hit the home run.
See, that was the problem. You left the game, and you weren't watching.
Well, that's
you
exactly.
went to the kitchen.
You're right.
So it's really your fault.
It isn't.
Because you were hungry.
I will take the blame. Let's just, fire me. Then.
Because you were hungry.
I was hungry, yeah.
That's not a diehard Dodgers
set up
fan.
plans for partying after the game, too, Jared. But let's get back to it. I didn't realize Kershaw was still in the game, so I hear Rendon hits a home run. I'm like, not surprising. He had crushed the ball the last 2 games. I kind of was waiting for him to hit a home run, to be honest, because he had played so well. Hits a home run. I go back. I see that Kershaw threw actually a pretty solid pitch, and Rendon hit out for a home run. I audibly told my brother, well, at that point, they should have took Kershaw out. I get you want the lefty-lefty matchup. They weren't warming up anybody in the bullpen. Another manager mistake right there. And so you go and you have Kershaw pitch to Juan Soto. I said audibly to my brother, who was sitting next to me, he better not let up against Soto or this could end really bad. Half a second later, I see the pitch released. I knew it was gone from the minute it came out of his hand because he threw an 89-mile-an-hour slider right down the middle. Nobody should ever do that. nonetheless, not especially not Clayton Kershaw in a playoff game, in an elimination game, in a win or go home game. Tie game, whatever. Kenta Maeda comes in, dominates again. He should have been in the whole damn inning, to be honest. And then we go to the ninth, and here comes out trots Joe Kelly, who's me and Jared's favorite reliever this season, as far as being the worst reliever in all of baseball.
I mean, listen, last year with the Red Sox,
doesn't matter. Yeah. Against the Red Sox, with the Red Sox, he dominated.
He dominated, you know? So it's like, okay, Joe
Oh.
Kelly, you've got experience, you're going to do this again.
Yep.
And not
then,
the same results.
Ninth inning, though, he actually dominated. 1, 2, 3 inning, but it was a little different. If you noticed, he didn't throw one fastball in the entire ninth inning. It was all off speed. It was all curveballs. So he comes out. Good idea. Great strategy from Rick Honeycutt, whoever came up with that strategy to do that. Good job. Go to the ninth. Dodgers can't hack it. We're going to the 10th, right? And Joe Kelly's still out on the mound, Jared. Joe Kelly's still out on the mound.
So you have a problem with that?
I would have never in a million years kept him out. Kenley Jansen, I understand, has not pitched well this season and has notoriously not pitched well in the playoffs in some of the biggest moments of the Dodgers playoffs the last couple of years.
Just like Kershaw.
But, you're not wrong. But, he's better than Joe Kelly. So why not put the better guy out? I see who's up next, and I see it's a righty and then a lefty. No, excuse me, it wasn't. No, it was wrong. But I see a lefty's coming up, so I'm like, okay, Collare's going to come into the game. Lefty specialist has been awesome most of the year. Probably the Dodgers' best reliever, to be honest. Is in the bullpen ready. So is Kenley Jansen. So I'm wondering, why is Kenley not in the game? Whatever, we'll give Joe Kelly a chance. Maybe he's hot. First batter, he walks. I don't, okay, that's it. Let's switch it. Kenley Jansen comes in, Collare comes in, whatever. Dave Roberts doesn't walk out of that dugout, Jared. Joe Kelly stays on. And who's coming up? Anthony Rendon, an MVP candidate, is coming up. What does he do? He smacks it right off the side of the wall, right? Would have been a ground rule double anyways. Nonetheless, everybody's at second and third. Then you're like, okay, let's take Joe Kelly out now. You had the lefty specialist who's dominated specifically Juan Soto in this series as well. And they intentionally walk him. So they warmed up a guy for literally no reason, wasted his arm in the bullpen. Now it's bases loaded, nobody out. One of the most clutch hitters in baseball, Howie Kendrick, is up. Who comes in, Jared? Nobody. They kept Joe Kelly in. Nobody comes in. What does Howie Kendrick do? Jared, why don't you tell me what Howie Kendrick did, I believe 2 or 3 pitches into this at-bat.
Well, I'm just going to make this short and sweet. Howie Kendrick hit a grand slam and basically shut the door
Isn't that awesome?
on the Dodgers right then and there.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. Listen, I'm just whip the Band-Aid off. Tell it like it is type of guy. Howie Kendrick, former Angel once again.
Former Dodger.
And listen, former Dodger, which makes things, I think, even worse, even though he had a longer tenure with the Angels than the Dodgers. The thing is, listen, Howie Kendrick, in this series, I mean, he had multiple errors. He wasn't hitting well.
He's the worst player.
It was one of those things where it's like, you were expecting almost anyone else but Howie Kendrick to do what he did.
Yeah.
And when he originally hit that ball, I was like, okay, this is going to be a pop out maybe to, I don't know, mid to deep center.
I did too.
But I did not think for one instant that ball was going out until it
Did you see the comment on the screen?
No, I did not.
The comment on the screen says, "Don't cry, Nick," from Eric, from our homie Eric Santos. I will try not to. I used anger and violence last night instead of crying to supplant the Dodgers' loss. But so there's a lot of mistakes here made in the 10th inning, specifically from Joe Kelly and specifically from Dave Roberts in action.
Do you feel like Dave Roberts got cold feet? I mean, like, how do you? Okay, here's the thing. You, as a manager, and from someone who has never played organized baseball at any level, as a manager, I feel like you're here to assess what's going on. Obviously, when you realize that your pitcher is not doing well, and you have relievers in the bullpen who are either warmed up or you have the opportunity to warm them up and get them ready to go, how do you then leave a pitcher in that moment,
5 times.
Big of a moment, right?
4 times, yeah.
In a win or go home situation, and yet Joe Kelly stays in. I as much as you want to put this on the athletes on the field, which at the end of the day, it's up to the athletes to perform.
Yes.
I think a lot of this has to go towards Dave Roberts as well and saying, what were you doing or what were you thinking?
And what were you thinking is the biggest thing here, because we're all sitting at home as fans. I'm sure the 50,000 people in the crowd were like, what the hell is going on? We need to take this guy out. Nobody trusts this guy. He was terrible in, I believe it was game 3, right? When we were up by six or seven runs. Walking guys, 100-mile-an-hour balls in the dirt, just murdering our catcher behind the plate because he just can't throw a strike. So you bring that guy in the biggest moment of the season, and you keep him out there for 4 very difficult situations when you have your closer in the bullpen ready, and you have a lefty specialist who's been your best reliever. That is stupid baseball, and I hate seeing, I always comment on Twitter, and I say this all the time, I hate stupid football. Like, I hate when teams don't call a timeout for 10 seconds, and they waste all that time on the clock, and it's like, this is obviously timeout situation here. Why aren't you calling timeout? This is one of those situations in baseball where what was going on in your head, and why did you take him out? They didn't even take him out for the Grand Slam, Jared, either. He gave up another, I think he might have got some guy out.
Hey, listen.
He gave up another hit, and then they brought Kenley Jansen in. Kenley Jansen, Pedro Martinez said this on the postgame show. Kenley Jansen should ask for a trade from the Dodgers. And I would not blame him, because that was complete disrespect. Not bringing him into the game before the series, saying that they might not use him in the biggest situations, and then to bring him in for mop-up duty, 7-3 in the 10th inning.
Speaking of a trade or a potential player who might not be on the Dodgers anymore, I want to transition a little bit. We obviously, that was a little bit.
I had to get that
the
out.
ins and outs of the game and how the game ended up going. Obviously, not in the Dodgers' favor, but now this is playing Monday morning quarterback. It's still a fresh wound, but at least you've had a night to sleep on it.
Sort of. We would, yeah.
Right. Okay. A little bit. You've had a few hours to sleep on it.
Yeah.
I want to ask 2 questions. Number 1, is Dave Roberts gone? Is he back as the Dodgers manager next year?
Is it my opinion, or is it what I think is going to happen?
What you think is going to happen?
I think he's going to remain Dodgers manager. What I want and what should happen, and what most Dodgers fans want to happen, is him fired, because he. I'll explain my part first, and I'll explain why I don't think my part is actually going to happen. The 2 World Series, most managers don't get the 2 World Series in a row. The Astros series, crazy series, but he made a lot of mistakes in that series, and you could sort of blame him for some decisions in that series as well. The Red Sox World Series, they were the better team. They whooped on us. There was really no chance, and it took us 18 innings to win 1 game in that series. I don't think you can put that on Roberts. I think you just put it on the Red Sox for the great year. Our roster wasn't ready, and we just, whatever. We didn't win the World Series. But this year, 106 wins. Franchise, that's the best a Dodger team has ever done in the regular season. Best ever. What, they've been around 100 years? Right? Maybe longer. They've been in LA for 60. And so you go have that kind of season, and then you bow out in the division series to a team that literally hadn't made a World Series and hadn't advanced in the playoffs for forever in Washington. And even in Montreal, it was since 1981 that they had advanced. Wow. They hadn't been in the World Series, Jared, in the city of Washington since 1924. You lose to that team, who gave up Bryce Harper in the offseason.
Right? Can we even talk about that for a minute?
Well, I think we.
I don't even know if we have time to talk about that. But that's just.
It's an incredible story. Juan Soto is a star, and Anthony Rendon is turning.
I'm sorry, if I'm not mistaken, when we did our MLB prediction show before the season started, I'm pretty sure we had both written off the Nationals and saying,
I'll have to go back
and saying that none of us expected this team to even make the playoffs, let alone
they weren't going to win the World Series.
Yeah,
there's no way we thought they would beat the Dodgers in the first round. I remember saying Dodgers were going to go to the World Series, and that wasn't a biased prediction. That was a
legitimate.
Yeah, because they're the best team in the National League, and unfortunately they're already out, which is crazy. They are still the best team, and they are now not in the playoffs anymore.
And now the Bryce Harper-less Washington Nationals moving
So
on.
what was your other?
Okay. And my second question to you also pertains to the Dodgers and a specific player, and that would be Clayton Kershaw, who obviously is a main component and main reason why the Dodgers lost that game last night. The cameras continued and constantly were showing Kershaw in the dugout with his head just down, looking exhausted, looking like he was about to cry. And there are many reports that in the locker room afterwards in the clubhouse that he was actually crying, and he was saying things like, "I can't believe this happened," and other words that we cannot say on this show. Nick, is it time for the Dodgers to let Kershaw go? And listen, I say this respectfully. I understand what Kershaw is in the regular season. One of, if not the most dominant pitchers in Major League Baseball history, not just Dodgers history alone, right? But in the postseason, he has proven on multiple occasions, multiple years, not just this year and not just last year, that he is not the clutch player that he is in the regular season.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, and I've said this multiple times on this show, you get defined at the end of your career by the rings that you have and the championships that you have, right? You can have all the stats in the world, you can have all the Cy Youngs and the most strikeouts ever and all this stuff, but at the end of the day, no one cares about that. No one's going to remember how much money you make.
Of course.
It is about winning championships and setting a legacy for yourself and for the organization, which so far Clayton Kershaw has not been able to do. So my question to you is does Clayton Kershaw, does he still deserve to be the ace of this team? And is he even on this team anymore?
Okay, here's the thing. It's going to be a very interesting summer for the Dodgers. Andrew Friedman, first of all, before I get to Kershaw, Andrew Friedman is not signed right now. He is the Dodgers pseudo GM. You don't have a GM, he's the guy that makes all the decisions. He's not signed. Kershaw can opt out after this season and leave the Dodgers.
So a player option.
But if he opts in, the Dodgers would have to trade him. I don't think that happens. Kershaw will be on the Dodgers next year. It's not a point of let's get rid of Kershaw, whatever. Because during the regular season, he's one of the best pitchers in the league.
I just have to ask.
Here's what Kershaw needs to do. Kershaw needs to look at himself and understand, much like guys like Adam Wainwright and CC Sabathia and others that were once dominant ace pitchers that threw in the high 90s, threw in the mid 90s. He needs to understand he's not that anymore, and that he needs to turn himself into a finesse pitcher. And that will help him, because what has happened here, I get it. Back a couple years ago when Mattingly was coaching and stuff like that, he was giving up home runs, but it was almost like he was just choking, and it would happen in the 6th or 7th inning, and he would dominate for like 5 or 6 innings. He's not even dominating anymore in the playoffs because he still thinks he throws 95 and he throws 90. And when you throw it,
he's a little longer, a little older in the tooth,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
And he doesn't have that arm strength anymore.
No, so he needs to change it. He needs to understand that he needs to become a finesse pitcher and not a power pitcher anymore. And Adam Wainwright, if you saw in one of the playoff games this year, I think he threw like 120 pitches, gave up 1 or 0 runs. His team ended up screwing them over in the end and blowing the game. But Adam Wainwright has turned himself into a finesse pitcher, and he's now, again, one of the most dependable pitchers in the league. CC Sabathia has changed up his stuff. He's rejuvenated his career. I think this is his last year no matter what this year, correct? But the last 3 years, before the last 3 years, he was one of the worst pitchers in baseball. And the Yankees were just stuck with that contract. Turned himself into a finesse pitcher. Once again, now a very dependable pitcher. Clayton Kershaw is not dependable because he still thinks he's a power pitcher, and he still thinks that he throws 95 and he can blow up past hitters like Rendon and Juan Soto. That doesn't happen anymore, and you can see the ball go into the Dodger Stadium parking lot now instead of going into the catcher's glove.
That's an interesting take. So you think that Kershaw needs to change up his approach and the way that he pitches
110%. That's his problem.
In order to continue his career.
He needs to be more like a Hyun-Jin Ryu or a Anibal Sanchez.
So basically, he needs to take a back seat. He is no longer the Dodgers' clear ace.
Walker Buehler is the ace. Hyun-Jin Ryu, if he does stay with the Dodgers, another guy who has the chance to leave in free agency. If he stays with the Dodgers, he's a better option than Kershaw, even during the regular season, too. Hyun-Jin Ryu is probably going to win the Cy Young this year. Walker Buehler, tough start to the season, but after that, he was very Cy Young-like for the rest of the year. So, No, Kershaw is the number 2/3 pitcher for the Dodgers. He's not number 1, and he needs to understand that he needs to become more of a finesse pitcher, especially when it comes to the playoffs. Or this stuff is going to keep happening over and over and over again. His contract is up if he doesn't opt out in 2021. So he has 2 years to figure this out. And after that, I don't think the Dodgers sign him back.
Well, listen, it's a little hot in here, and Nick was able to vent a lot, get a lot of things off of his chest.
We need to switch it up, though. Yes.
We do need to switch it up a little bit. There are other series going on. In particular, a Game 5 that's happening tonight in Houston as the Rays were able to win Game 4 and send this game back for a Game 5 tonight. Let's talk about that series very quickly. A very interesting one where Justin Verlander, in a very kind of controversial move by the Houston Astros, they started Justin Verlander on short rest when he has never in his career in the postseason started on short rest. Obviously, that did not work out in his favor. I believe he went 4 innings.
Well, he gave up, I think, 4 runs in the first inning, and then was in trouble in the third.
Okay, so, but basically, he did not play well. That backfired, and now we have a Game 5. Let's get your quick analysis and opinion on Game 5 and who advances to face the much-rested New York Yankees.
Well, I'll say this, and this podcast is gonna come out, I believe, after the game is over. I think it's going on right now. So, I'm not gonna give a prediction necessarily. I'm gonna go over what I think. Like, it's amazing to me that the Rays have brought this to a Game 5 because the Astros, in my opinion, were the best team in baseball. Dodgers were the best team in the NL. Astros were the best team in baseball. I thought the Yankees...
It seemed like that was going to be a collision course as
I thought the Yankees had a lot of injuries. Sorry, pitcher isn't well, so I was a little bit wrong on the Yankees, although they still won over 100 games, and they did sweep the Minnesota Twins. But I thought the Astros would at least win in 4. They're now going to 5, and the Rays tonight have Charlie Morton and Blake Snell in the bullpen, along with all their other relievers, and they have Tyler Glasnow pitching live right now. So they have everything stacked on deck. I think it's interesting. The Astros, when you look at it, it was a mistake by A.J. Hinch to pitch Justin Verlander. But the Astros team, I don't see them losing tonight. If you're watching this tomorrow or later tonight and the game is over and the Rays have won, I would be genuinely surprised, to be honest. Because I think one mistake can't ruin it. It doesn't make you lose it. Like I said, the Dodgers made a lot of mistakes in their series. That's why they lost. Right. The Astros haven't made. They made one big mistake pitching Verlander, and then the Rays have good pitching.
The great teams are able to overcome those types of mistakes.
Exactly. Yes. So I do think the Astros will advance. If they don't, we'll be talking about the Rays. But nonetheless, let's actually transition it to who these teams' opponent will be, and that's the Yankees. And no matter if the Rays or Astros win tonight, the Yankees are sitting on a lot of rest, all of their pitchers ready, and this is advantage New York for whoever they play. I thought whatever series would happen, the Yankees would at least bring it to 6. Now I believe the Yankees probably will win whoever
the Yankees, no matter what, have home field?
No, the Astros are the best record.
Okay. So
they're all the Rays.
Right.
But here's the thing: the way baseball is too, and this is how basketball used to be in the NBA Finals. It's 2-3-2. So even if the Yankees can win one game in Houston or Tampa Bay,
then you get 3 in a row.
3 games at Yankee Stadium in a row. That's
interesting, and I think that's another debatable topic for another day. I'm not a fan of the 2-3-2.
Well, just baseball scheduling. It's hard for you to have 1-1 games. The travel wise, it never happens.
Well,
in baseball.
it would in this particular instance if the Rays were to win tonight, and like we said, you could be watching this tomorrow, and the game could already be over. But if the Rays win, that is a short flight, for both of those teams.
Oh, it's simple.
So it would be easier to go back and forth.
Literally, the team is based in Tampa during spring training too, so it's actually familiar
territory.
I can imagine a lot of Yankees fans being in both stadiums, but specifically Tampa Bay. That's dangerous. Well,
exactly.
Home field advantage really in the whole series.
But the Yankees are in the best position possible.
Absolutely.
Like you said, they are well rested. They are at full strength, if I'm not mistaken. And
no, absolutely. And this is what I was saying. It's with the 2-3-2 format. The Yankees have now set themselves up to win Game 1 or Game 2. They will win. I guarantee the Yankees will win Game 1 or Game 2 at least. That means if they're playing the Rays, they win a home game. If they're playing the Astros, they go back home, having everybody rested, having Luis Severino in a game 3, having all your other pitchers ready to go, and you're at 3 games at Yankee Stadium in a row. I can't imagine them losing all 3 of those games. So, because of the fact that they won that series so quickly in Minnesota, the Yankees, I think, are set up in prime position no matter who wins the game tonight to head off to the World Series. They're my favorite now.
Now, we have one more series to go to before we transition into another segment, and that is the St. Louis Cardinals, who I believe it was a record last night, a postseason record, scored 10 runs in the first inning against the Atlanta Braves. No one, I don't care if you're a baseball aficionado, if you know nothing about baseball, there was no one, if anyone bet on the St. Louis Cardinals to score 10 runs in the first, you are, that's just brilliant. But there's no way. Those bets
don't exist.
They don't exist. Because it doesn't ever happen at all. But guess what? It did happen yesterday, and after the first inning, that game was basically over.
11-0 in the second, 13-0 in the third.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Just a quick analysis, because the series was a good series that went to 5 games as well. But just the fact that St. Louis came out and just blew them out right away out of the gates.
Well, what happened was, the Cardinals, it was clutch hitting, smart at bats. There was no home runs hit in this game. 0 home runs. 13
That is old school baseball.
0 home runs. That is dangerous.
That's old school
for
baseball.
the Washington Nationals and whoever, if they can get to the World Series, the Yankees, Astros, or Rays. This team is good, okay? And they had a pretty terrible start to the season too, much like the Nationals, which is why that series is interesting coming in the NLCS. But this team, they have good young starting pitching. They have long in the tooth Adam Wainwright, who's made the proper adjustments for a guy that can't power pitch anymore.
Ooh, listen to
Kershaw. Solid bullpen, Andrew Miller, Carlos Martinez, and one of the better lineups in baseball. Matt Carpenter isn't even hitting well right now for them. And then Paul Goldschmidt, I think he's batting .500 in the playoffs. Marcell Ozuna has a couple home runs. Yadier Molina has been super.
I mean, I feel like the guy's been in the league for like 50 years. I mean, the guy, he's just...
And he catches, too. It's amazing.
Just solid, man.
No, but, the game yesterday, it's just... St. Louis, to me, had control of that series the entire time. And I just think, like I said, when Adam Wainwright pitched that game I was talking about, I think he went 8 innings, like 125 pitches. They were winning 1-0, or I think it might have been 1-1, and the bullpen blew it. So it's like they've dominated this series most of the innings of this series, and then they just kind of were like, yeah, we're going to win this series. Let's put a field goal and a touchdown on them in the first inning, and then kick another field goal in the third inning, and we'll go up 13-0. Interesting fact that has nothing to do with baseball. The Cardinals do play the Atlanta football team this week too, which is kind of
always gotta plug in.
I gotta plug my Cardinals. I gotta plug some team that it's not gonna break my heart.
Oh my God.
Cardinals
hey, very quickly, how about the baseball Cardinals manager afterwards? Did you hear him?
I actually haven't seen it yet.
Right after this podcast, if you haven't seen it, go on Twitter and look up the Cardinals manager in the clubhouse afterwards, giving a very uplifting speech to his players.
A lot of swear words, right?
A lot of swear words.
Yeah.
So profanity is used, please be advised. Basically saying, we will play anytime, anywhere, and you just need to go watch it. I loved it. As a former athlete, I would get behind that manager and run through a wall for that guy. That was awesome. You don't really see coaches or managers in any sport really talk like that or speak that way to his players, his or her players. So the fact that he came out and was so confident in his words, it made me want to jump and run through a wall for that guy. So go check that out afterwards. But I thought that was I'm almost rooting for the Cardinals to win just because I want to hear what he would say if they were winning the World
I'm definitely
Series.
rooting for the Cardinals to win. I know. The thing is,
you're not rooting for the Nationals.
Now I can just be a fan.
You're not rooting for the Nationals?
Oh, hell no.
Oh, okay. I'm just making sure.
It broke my heart last night.
I'm just had that.
No, the Nationals. It's whatever. The Cardinals. There's a couple reasons. Number one, I think the Cardinals are going to win. So whenever I predict the team to win that series, I always want them to win because I want my prediction to be right. But number two, I know somebody I'm not going to say the name, but I know somebody that can win $6,000 if the Cardinals win the World Series.
Okay.
So I'm kind of rooting for the Cardinals to win the World Series. Just so my man can get. He bet him at the beginning of the season.
Wow.
I don't know how much money he put down, but he has a chance to win $6,000.
I like that.
So
yeah.
So that's so. If you didn't hear me, I do think the Cardinals will advance. The next time we do a podcast, it will be when these series are over as well. So we can do our predictions right now. Might as well. We'll just do our predictions for the next two series. And just to give you a heads up, we're, like I said, it's live. Astros put up 4 runs in the first inning. Rays got a home run back in the second, but so it's looking like the Astros are on their way to a championship series thing. But nonetheless, I think the Yankees are going to the World Series. I think the Cardinals will win the next series. I'm not going to say games because we don't even have one of the series to predict. Who do you think advances to the World Series?
I think it's going to be the Astros and the Cardinals.
Oh, so you're going with the Astros.
Yeah.
Astros winning tonight, obviously, and you think they're going to be able to beat the Yankees. Can you give me some context? Why do you think is it the
Listen, I think the Astros are the most one of the most complete teams in baseball. Obviously, we know about their pitching, obviously starting in their bullpen.
But I think not going to like you saying that.
No, he's not, but it's okay. I can take it. But I think that combined with their clutch hitting and the fact that you just said they were able to put up 4 runs in the first inning, this team can score in an instant. And the fact here's the thing, if you're a pitcher, right? We know how great these Astros pitchers are. But the fact that they go out with even more confidence, knowing that even if we give up a run or 2 or even 3, we know that our offense is going to come out and they're going to be able to pick us back up, right? So yes. I think that's from a mental perspective and a mental aspect, when you have that great hitting behind you, you can go out there and afford to kind of try some things and throw a fastball down the middle, right? Because you know this isn't the Angels or a crappy team to where you have to play and pitch a perfect game. So from that instance, I'm picking the Astros because I think they are the most complete team in baseball.
You're so confident the game's not even over and you're already picking the Astros. That's yeah. Like we said, it's 4-0 or 4-1 right now in the second inning. Astros with a big lead. Then who do you think, Cardinals or Nationals?
I picked the Cardinals. I picked the Astros and the Cardinals to make the World Series.
Actually wasn't even
paying
attention. Okay, so we differ a little bit. I think the Yankees win, Astros win, so we'll see what happens there. All right, we're going to transition quickly. 2 topics with the NFL very quickly, where we ran long on time for that first segment. But one, what games are we looking at this weekend? It's a solid week in football, but I don't think we have any marquee top matchups. What are you looking forward to?
There is a game that is in it's the Philadelphia Eagles and the Minnesota Vikings. As a Cowboys fan, I'm looking at the Eagles, who really right now should be 1-4. They've had a couple close wins. They beat the Packers on Thursday Night Football last week in a very close game. And then in week 1, they came back to beat Washington when they were down by 17. This team right now is very up and down. They've looked good the last few weeks, but then again last week they played the Jets with Luke Falk, a third-string quarterback who can barely throw the ball at all. So that was kind of a meaningless win right there. But I'm really looking at this team as they're kind of hot right now, right? And they're going in to Minnesota, who's a tough team, very tough defense. What is Kirk Cousins going to do? I think if Minnesota wins this game...
That's a $28 million question.
It is. And if Minnesota wins this game, I think it kind of it elevates them right there with the Packers as the top 2 teams in the division. I think the Chicago Bears, my team, to win that division, they so far have underachieved after they lost in London to the Oakland Raiders this past week. So I'm really looking at that one matchup, the Vikings and the Eagles, as one of the better games of this weekend.
I'm looking at Green Bay and Detroit. I want to see how legitimate
Monday Night Football.
Both those teams are, because Green Bay surprised me. I believe they're 4-1, and they beat your Cowboys this week.
Yes, they did.
This past week, convincingly. And the Detroit Lions have surprised a lot of people and played well against every single team they've played. Even the Kansas City Chiefs, they should have won that game as well. It's their only loss. So, real quickly, we're going to switch over because this is perfect timing from a question from Ryan Johnson, a.k.a. the RKJ Man. He asks right now, by the way, Ryan, I was about to ask this exact same question to Jared, but he's a little harsher with it. This is from Ryan Johnson, this question. I don't know if you guys have covered it, so I'm going to ask. What does Jared Smith think of the Cowboys slide right now?
I'm a little upset. Yeah, I'm not happy about it. And here's the thing. I had the Cowboys as contenders for the first quarter of this season, and I don't have them as contenders right now. I don't.
I never expected you to say that.
This is a true Cowboys fan coming to you correct right now. Listen, the Cowboys' first 3 weeks, their first 3 games of the season were against the New York Giants, and the New York Giants had Eli Manning at the time. Saquon Barkley was basically their only weapon. Their defense is god-awful. That was an easy win. Then week 2, they went to play Washington. We know that Washington, their entire organization, is god-awful. And then week 3, they had the winless and hopeless and tanking team in the Miami Dolphins, right? So the first 3 weeks of the season, yes, the Cowboys did what they were supposed to do, but I don't think we really got a glimpse of what this Cowboys team was until we saw them go up against some better competition. Week 4, they go into New Orleans on a Sunday night, and they basically put up a dud. They score 1 touchdown. They have a couple turnovers against a Drew Brees-less New Orleans Saints offense where Teddy Bridgewater is now 3-0 as the starter. And I'm like, you know what? It's okay. It's 1 game. It was on the road. It's a hostile environment in New Orleans. We're going to come back week 5 at home against a good Packers team without arguably the best receiver in the league in Devontae Adams, right? Who's Aaron Rodgers going to throw it to? This Cowboys defense is going to come back strong, and the Cowboys offense is going to put it on them, right? Well, guess what? The Cowboys go down 31-3, and then they finally decide to show up and score some damn points. Yeah. So, as of today, no, I'm not a believer in this Cowboys team, and I'm not even going to be a believer even if they do and should win against the New York Jets, who are also winless this week. In 2 weeks, they play the Eagles, which is their next formidable opponent, and after that game, I think we will have a little better idea and picture of what this Cowboys team looks like.
So I'm not even gonna analyze the Cowboys because your soundbite that you don't think they're contenders. I'm gonna leave that there. But to piggyback on your point, they play at the Jets this week. The Jets get Sam Darnold back, correct?
That's fine.
Sam Darnold's back. I'm just saying. So the Cowboys are now playing the toughest Jets team you could play, right? They said they play the Eagles the next week. Then they have a bye, and then they play at the Giants. That's winnable. Then they're playing the Vikings, Lions, Patriots, and Bills, who have in a row.
I believe right now they have a combined 14-4-1 record. Those 4 teams after the bye.
Well, no,
not talking about the Jets, Eagles, or the Giants.
I didn't even look at this either. So after the Bills, at Bears, Rams, at Eagles, and then Redskins to end the season. So the Cowboys messed up.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I'm going to say this right now. We're going to take the 1 week at a time approach. The Cowboys need to come out and score 50. And I didn't say 50. I said 50. When you come out and you score 50 points, that means, all right, we're going to come out and we're going to have a good game.
That's like who did that the other day?
I don't know who did it, but
it was against Atlanta.
But I'm copying it. Yeah. The defense, comes out and maybe gives up some points, but the offense kind of does this thing. When you put up 50, that means that you dominate the whole game and you don't give up a point to the opponent. The Cowboys need to literally come out and make the Jets players say uncle. They better make the Jets quit. Yeah. That's how pissed off this Cowboys team needs to be. And they need to come out with some fight in them that we rarely haven't seen in the last couple weeks. And they need to come out with a sense of urgency in the beginning. Because the last 2 weeks, they've come out just nonchalant, thinking that they're kind of feeling themselves a little too much. I hope that the Cowboys come out and accept the ball, get the ball, and come down and run down their throats immediately. I don't want them to defer. I don't want the defense on the field first. They need to come out and prove that they are a better team than they've shown the last couple weeks.
I agree with you 100%. And if you remember me saying this, I said, I believe it was even before they played Miami, because obviously they were going to beat Miami. I said, I want to see them against tough teams. And you're right, they have not performed. They should have won that game. Ryan Johnson thinks the Uncle comment is funny. I did too. The Green Bay game was super surprising to me though too, that they blew out one. But I mean, coming up, looking at the schedule, man, this is going to be. I could see 6 losses for the Cowboys now, and I thought they were going to be a 3-loss, 4-loss team. Now that they lost those last 2 games, they're looking at a bunch of losses.
10-6 will more than likely get you in the playoffs.
But then you have to play an extra playoff game. You're
Right.
not going to be, and you're probably playing maybe the Rams.
Right,
The Rams.
right.
So it's
Listen, I don't want to get any more heated because I feel like I'm already upset about this.
Oh,
Go out, Cowboys, and do what you're supposed to do against a winless Jets team. I get it. Sam Darnold's coming back. I'm happy that he no longer has mono and that he's cleared to come back and play. It is Sam Darnold and Le'Veon Bell and Jamal Adams on the defensive side of the ball. There are 3 players on the Jets team that I would potentially be worried about. Everyone else. No one else
offensively
compares.
for sure. I think Quinn Williams is a good player.
Quinn Williams is legit. Yeah. Other than that, no. The Cowboys should come out and win this game by 20. And if they don't,
No, they
if
need to
they
win
just
by 50. You
50,
just said you
50.
win
And
by
Ryan
50.
and Ryan, I'll talk to you about Uncle later on.
Yeah, we need to. We need the Cowboys for good old fashioned Ravens Dolphins beating. That's what we need. That's
yes,
what
we
you're
do.
looking at.
Yes,
right?
we do.
We don't want one of these shootouts where it's 50-40, like Chiefs Rams. It needs to be Ravens Dolphins. I agree.
That
with
won't
you
make me happy at all.
on that. And then they need to beat the Eagles and they need to beat the Giants before that very, very tough end of the
See,
season.
listen, we came into this podcast and I was all excited and hyped because I knew that you were pissed that we were talking about your Dodgers. And all of a sudden, all of that negativity and energy
It's all Ryan.
has now come on to me. Thank you, Ryan. And I'm going to blame you a little bit too because you even said that you were going to ask this question.
Yeah, of course.
Now I'm all fired up and I'm all upset. I need to calm myself
We
down
need
a
to
little
talk
bit.
about something different.
Let's go into college football. We've got some big-time matchups
Both
this
our
weekend.
teams suck in college football. So we don't have
Yes, USC is traveling to Notre Dame. That is already a loss. I don't even know why they're going to travel. And UCLA, they still have a football team?
No, they don't.
They don't?
No, they don't. They ceased
All right,
operations.
well, I'm glad we got those 2 Southern California teams out of the way.
Yeah.
Now we can move to some actual real college
Let's
football.
talk. Yeah, exactly.
We have some big matchups.
Huge match. We got Oklahoma-Texas Red River rivalry. Where do they play that? They play the game in the Cowboys Stadium now?
No, it's not. It's actually at the Cotton Bowl.
Cotton Bowl, that's right.
It used to be at Texas Stadium, and now it's at the Cotton Bowl.
Alabama, Texas A&M.
Are we going to do a quick prediction, or are we?
No, I'm just saying the games,
Okay.
and then we'll go over the biggest ones. I'm just saying this is a big weekend. Alabama, Texas A&M, Michigan State get at Wisconsin. Let me get down here. My computer's lagging a little bit. Like you said, USC at Notre Dame. That's a loss for sure. Penn State, number 10, at Iowa, number 17.
Iowa always plays tough at home.
Yep, I actually could see Iowa winning that game. And then probably the biggest game besides Oklahoma and Texas, Florida, LSU.
LSU with that,
Tigers
with
versus
that
Gators.
offense putting up over 40 points. When was the last time an LSU football team
Like
was
never.
averaging over 40 points?
No, like never.
Never.
So, which game? We're going to go over the 2 games: Oklahoma, Texas, the ones with college football playoff implications.
Well,
for
let's
both-
just let's
both.
start with LSU and Florida right now.
Yes,
right
this
now.
is
An SEC matchup. Florida with a big win against Auburn at home last week. Now traveling to LSU. LSU. Have they really played anyone this year? I get that they traveled to Texas and played Texas a couple weekends ago, and even though they gave up some points, they really won that game pretty handedly. But, you know, and listen, this is no shade against LSU. I think LSU is great, and I think they're going to be in contention for a national championship title. I'm just trying to wonder, have they played anyone legitimately yet? Have they really been
They beat
challenged?
Texas. Yeah.
So Texas is their one
okay,
formidable
so then they played Georgia Southern, Northwestern
No.
State,
No.
at Vanderbilt, and
No.
Utah State.
No.
So
Okay.
you're right. Since that game, they've had a very cupcake schedule. Now we come in.
Now they get into the SEC schedule. Into
It
the
helps
meat.
you at home. So I think we both think that LSU is going to win this game?
LSU should win this
So
game.
how does Florida win then? Because I think we should analyze that.
Florida has to create turnovers. LSU is throwing the ball more than they ever have. Florida has both of their cornerbacks who returned for last week's game against Auburn. They hadn't had their 2 starting quarterbacks at all this entire season. So now that they have a full game underneath their belt, Florida needs to get turnovers. They need to not turn the ball over on offense, and they need to be fundamentally sound. Because if Florida turns the ball over more than once or twice, it's LSU. Listen, I'm just saying, I've seen games in Death Valley at night, a 5 p.m. start. That place is going to be rocking. It's going to be tough for Florida on offense to hear. They're going to have to go with the silent count, and they're going to have to play close to perfect football, in my opinion, to beat LSU at home.
Yeah, looking at the statistics, the total yards, some of this is kind of confusing, but defensively, they're about the same, both these teams. It is where on offense, LSU has a clear edge in the stats as well. I think it says they averaging 570 yards.
And I think a lot of this credit from an LSU offensive standpoint goes to their offensive coordinator, who was formerly with the Saints last year. So he's bringing a little bit of his NFL style to college, but also incorporating the RPOs and the read options and things of that nature. So this LSU offense is wide open. It spreads you out, but guess what? They have the talent. The most talent of any college football team in America right now. So a very scary team.
No, exactly. So LSU and Florida both averaging less than 300 yards on defense. They're allowing less than 300 yards. But on offense, like I said, 570 yards average for LSU, 424 for Florida.
A huge matchup.
Florida does come off a big win against Auburn.
Right.
That probably knocked those statistics a little off because when you're playing a tough team, you don't get as many yards. But LSU clearly scores a lot of points, so I think your turnover point is perfect. That's the only way you combat that.
You have to get turnovers.
You have to get turnovers.
On the road, hostile environment.
You have to hope that LSU misses field goals, doesn't make the big plays in the red zone.
I'm telling you this right now.
Hold the field goals, not touchdowns.
LSU at home, they're going to take more chances, whether it's a fake punt, they're going to go for it on fourth down. They've got that home crowd behind them. I think LSU potentially, depending on the situation, if they're in that field goal range or go for it, I think they go. I think they end up going for it in more situations than not. I think they take more chances because they're at home and they can lean on their crowd. So don't be surprised if you see some trick plays or more aggressive play from the LSU offense.
I think Florida needs to do it too. Florida needs to bring out those plays.
Right,
as well.
But they just need to be careful because, like I said, I think that home crowd is a huge advantage. And when you're on the road like that, like I said, you can't really make a lot of mistakes. So when you're taking more chances, it's higher risk of making a mistake. You have to be aggressive, but you also have to realize, hey, if they can't go down early, right? They got to keep their heads in the game until the fourth quarter and then strike.
Yeah, and so we both think LSU is going to win.
Yes.
That's our prediction. I'm not going to do scores, but here's another question, because this is the reason we're talking about this game is because it's number 5 versus number 7. It's an interesting dynamic because Florida is undefeated, LSU is undefeated, and so when you look at it, but when you look at this, even if one of these teams lose, obviously a team is going to lose. The loser of this game, because they play such high-profile opponents later in the season, is either this team knocked out of playoff contention?
No.
If they lose?
No. As long as they don't get blown out.
Okay, that's a fair point. Yeah.
Right, and we kind of say that a lot about teams. As long as you don't get blown out and you make it competitive, you're still in. But I think this really does matter. Both of these teams are in the SEC, which is arguably the toughest conference in all of college football. And because of their schedules going forward, they have a legit opportunity to make up for that loss, whichever team loses this game on Saturday. So as long as it is competitive and it is close, and both of these teams are showing fight, whoever loses this game, no, I do not think they are out. It just means that they're going to need more help down the road from other teams potentially losing, and they're going to need to impress the committee going forward.
Well, and here's what you're looking at, too. And this is why we're saying this. This is why we're saying both these teams have a chance. LSU will play Alabama later this season. Okay, that's a fact.
Always.
They also play Auburn, but the Alabama game, we'll just go with the top teams. They play Alabama. If they're able to beat Alabama, they either play Georgia or Florida again.
If LSU beats Alabama, they're in, period. I don't care what happens.
This is what I'm saying. I'm saying if LSU loses to Florida, and then you beat Alabama, you get into the championship game.
You're in.
You get into the SEC championship game, and then you have to play Florida again. You lose to Florida again, you're not in.
No.
That's what I'm saying. Or if you
Okay. I'm talking about the SEC championship game.
Yeah. No, I'm saying both these teams, if they're able to beat opponents, say Florida plays Georgia later this season, LSU plays Alabama. So even with one loss, if they're able to get into the SEC championship game, they then have another opportunity to play another superstar team in the SEC championship that would probably be enough to get them into the Final Four. So this game is big. But if it's not a blowout,
it's not the end of the world.
If you're fans of these teams, it's okay. They will have another chance, and that's what I love about the SEC. Gives teams a chance.
That's right.
So I'm actually hoping for no blowout because I want to see this stuff get all messed up. I love when that happens. All right, let's move on to a little different of a game. This one is, I think, at least a little more lopsided, in my opinion. You might disagree with me. Oklahoma versus Texas. Oklahoma, undefeated, looks unstoppable. Texas lost, of course, to LSU. Not a bad loss. But they need to go undefeated for the rest of the season to make the college football playoffs. It's not the same scenario for Texas here. This is Texas's big chance to redeem themselves. They did it last year. They beat Oklahoma in the regular rivalry, Kyler Murray and company. What do you think happens in this game? Who wins this? Oklahoma is a 10.5-point favorite. Who wins this game?
Texas will not repeat and win like they did last year. Oklahoma is way too powerful. Jalen Hurts is the Heisman favorite right now, throwing the ball all over the place, averaging over 400 yards passing per game. The guy's thrown for 5 touchdowns, I believe 2 or 3 times already this season. This offense literally looks unstoppable. Texas is going to have to keep up from an offensive standpoint and be able to score 40 or 50 points, and I just don't see them doing that. Sam Ehlinger is a good quarterback, but I don't see this Texas team from an offensive standpoint keeping up with Oklahoma, because I think Oklahoma can score no matter where they are in the field. And like I said, they're going to put up maybe not 50 points, but I don't think this game will be as close. I think you're right. This will be, I think, a double-digit win for Oklahoma. And I think really this is about Oklahoma elevating themselves and proving that we can do this against a very good team, because Texas is a good team, right? I don't think we're trying to throw any shade at them. We know that Texas is a good team, even though they lost to LSU. Oklahoma is trying to prove that we can come out and dominate not only against the lesser opponents, but we can dominate against our rival and against a very good opponent. If Oklahoma comes out and does that, I think they then, pencil themselves in to the early college football playoff.
No. And if you look at the stats too, further, you look at the money line, it's Texas or Oklahoma's in minus 380. When you look at most games, it's usually in the 100s in games like this. That's a clear favorite for Oklahoma. Right. And then when you look at the stats as well, Oklahoma, 643 total yards, not many tough opponents, but their offense is obviously sizzling this season. 483 total yards, that's 150-plus yard difference there between the two teams. Right. And then on defense, Oklahoma only giving up 346 yards per game, Texas 441. So in both categories, offensive and defensively, Oklahoma is the better team. I could see this being close or around that 10-point thing, but I see no way Oklahoma loses this game.
No, I don't think so. I don't see it happening. So those are definitely the 2 biggest matchups of the weekend. Like we mentioned, there's some other ones. Alabama playing Texas A&M. We mentioned Notre Dame. We mentioned Wisconsin. But those are the 2 marquee headliner top 25 matchups going into this weekend's game.
One real quick thing, too, just 2 other teams that have big games. Penn State is playing number 17 on the road in Iowa. If Penn State blows out another solid opponent, I think Penn State could make the Final Four. They're number 10 right now. Who did they blow out earlier this season that was very, very surprising? Like, it was supposed to be a close, tough, close game. Might have been Michigan State. They beat them like 54-0 or something like that.
I don't remember. You'd have to look it up.
I'll have to look it up. But in the meantime, I think if they come out and play Iowa well, you have Michigan. I do believe they play Ohio State later this season too, if I'm not correct.
I believe so. I know they played them last year.
They set themselves up to be a formidable opponent as well. While I'm looking this up, then you look at who was I just? Oh, and Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame needs to beat USC handily,
which they will.
They have one loss.
That's not a question.
But their only tough opponent later this season is Michigan.
And that's what happens when you're an independent school and you are not in a conference. You get to make up your own schedule, and for the most part, Notre Dame's schedule has been weak at best, right? At USC, we know that they have talent, but from an overall team perspective, I don't think anyone, not even USC fans, including Nick and I, who live in the Southern California area, believe that USC will go into Notre Dame and win this game.
It's not realistic.
It's just not going to happen, and this more than likely, I believe, will be Clay Helton's last game coaching at USC.
But this is a big question is he going to get fired from tarmac like Lane Kiffin, or will he?
I think they'll let him at least, give him the courtesy of coming back home.
Yeah.
Maybe let him sit down in his office one last time, kind of check things out, and then come in and kind of hammer.
Did you hear what they did to Jay Gruden? Jay Gruden got fired, by the way. We're not going to talk about it because we all expected it. But they made Jay Gruden come in at 5 a.m. Woo! Ooh, that means he had to wake up like 3:30.
Yeah, see, here's the thing. Jay Gruden in the post-game press conference, and Jay Gruden, by the way, those of you who don't know, was the former head coach of the Washington Redskins in the NFL. And he basically said in this post-game press conference after they lost to the New England Patriots, he said, as long as my key works, I will show up to work on Monday. So apparently his key worked at 5 in the morning, and that's the last time that it worked.
I mean, that was a mean thing to do.
Yeah, so no, I going back to Clay Helton, unfortunately I feel like this will be his last game coaching USC. I don't see any chance that USC wins this game. I believe it's Slovis who is going to be starting for USC, but Notre Dame across the board is a way better team. Notre Dame earlier this year went into Georgia and put up a huge dogfight, no pun intended, against Georgia. And we know how good Georgia is, right? Yeah. So USC, there's no way they're going to match Georgia's talent or level of play, and that should be a blowout win for Notre Dame.
The win I was talking about, so Maryland blew out, God, I'm messing up all these analyzations right now. Maryland blew out a ranked opponent earlier this year, another 50-point win, and then Penn State beat Maryland 59-0. So that's what I'm saying. This Penn State team is good. They play at Iowa, and then the next week they play Michigan. They also play at Ohio State, and then if they're able to win all of that, they would play Wisconsin likely too. So they have it. If Penn State keeps rolling, watch out for Penn State to potentially be a playoff contender.
Let's get a little. I'm not getting on that Penn State bandwagon right now. I appreciate you bringing Penn State up and putting them in the conversation. Penn State, they're in the Big Ten. Yeah, Maryland, I'm not sold on them. They do play Michigan. Do they play Ohio State?
Yeah, they play Ohio State.
Okay, they play Ohio State.
Right. At Ohio State, too.
All right, that right, because last year was at Penn State. So go out and beat Michigan, and then beat Ohio State, and then we can talk. Until then,
at that point, they're probably ranked like 4.
Penn State deserves to be in the top 10. That's as far as we're going to go for right now. Also, that is as far as this show is going to go, because we are out of time. Thank you for joining us again. Like we said, we were gone last week, so we returned this week. We had a lot of heated discussions. Obviously, Nick is still very bitter and pissed off about his Dodgers. I am upset about my poor performance.
Boo the blue and white teams this week.
Poor performance, yes. So the Cowboys, fortunately, have an opportunity to make up from their last 2 losses. The Dodgers will have to soak all offseason, and we will not see them until the spring.
You gotta wait till February.
Yes. But for today, that is the end of the show. You will see us next week, so don't worry about that. We will be back either Tuesday or Wednesday with another show.
Yeah, we're gonna do a podcast next week. Will be interesting because we're gonna do a podcast predicting the World Series and probably talking a little bit more football about what happened in these college football games. But within the next week or two, we're gonna be doing our NBA predictions. Won't be as long as like our NFL show and stuff like that, but we're going to be looking at, all these Western teams, who's going to win all that stuff, and looking at the East and who we think is going to win the finals, and just analyze the whole NBA. So I don't think that will be. I think that will be its own specific podcast. So I don't know if we're going to even be recording it earlier next week or whatever. They will come out some point.
We will let you guys know a very unique NBA predictions show with so much parity going on in the league. We can't just sit here and say that it's the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers meeting in the finals anymore. The NBA Finals is up for grabs. So we are signing off for today. I'm Jared Smith.
I'm Nick Nina.
Thank you for joining us. Tune in next week. This has been another episode of the Cover 2 podcast. See ya.